Hi, I'm Brett, and today I'm sitting in the new MY1516 Mitsubishi Pajero Sport. Now, this particular model has replaced the previous Mitsubishi Challenger, which was the wagon version of the Mitsubishi Triton. And as I've said in the dyno video that you can refer to separately, the Challenger was a good solution for the model of its type, but probably wasn't really quite as refined as what people had wanted when they're looking for a particular vehicle of that type. This particular car that we're sitting in now, which is a replacement model called the Pajero Sport, is absolutely incredibly different, and I'm very, very impressed with both the performance factory standard and the improvement that we've gained with the upgrade from the custom tune with the factory ECU. And what we're going to do now, we've been doing some road testing for some time. We're going to take you for a road test in the car just to show you my thoughts and feelings of what the car is like. But I'm sitting in the car park here at MRT, and I'm just going to show you just some of the particular features of the car when you're reversing, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the car as we get outside, and I'll comment on the drivability, the performance, and the power increase. So let's just have a look at this dash. This is the entertainment system on the car. Obviously at the moment it's showing the stereo, which is all controlled by the steering wheel as well. But when I put it in reverse, this is one thing that is, I'm a bit of a geeky person. This part here is actually, the middle of the roof is actually not really looking, it's actually a dummy picture of the car, but around the side is real-time cameras which are on the extremities of the vehicle that show the real things as you're reversing, and this is obviously the rear camera. So I'll get my camera in to watch this as I'm reversing out of the workshop, because we've got some things around us and you can just see how well it works. And I reckon from a technology point of view, this car has got one thing, that particular feature is something that I think is just an advantage on its own. If you've got kids and you're always worried about reversing, we hear about that horrible situations of parents reversing out their driveways over the kids' bikes, or unfortunately sometimes reversing over children. But yeah, that's one thing that impressed me in particular. So from a technology point of view, this particular car comes only in Australia with a 8-speed transmission, which I can change via the paddles on the steering wheel, or I can use it in sports mode by moving the transmission shift lever forward and back. And of course I can always put it back into auto mode again as we're driving. And the engine that comes in this model is the new turbo diesel with the diesel particulate filter, catalytic converter built in as one assembly on the exhaust manifold, variable vane turbo technology, variable boost control through the factory ECU, 2.4 litre turbo diesel engine. And I liken this car to a modern day version, and I say is reluctantly, the Ford Territory Turbo, because my wife and my family had a Ford Territory Turbo for 5 or 6 years, had the big straight 6 engine, petrol, really thirsty, amazing power. But this car feels size-wise very, very similar. It's got a lot of space in the back, but from the outside, as you can see by some of the photos that we'll show you on our link here, it's just pretty funky looking modern day version from Mitsubishi. But overall, I'm actually quite impressed. Now, it's obviously in normal mode. You can see down here on the center console, you can change between 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, and all the other modes and features which you can use at any time. At the moment, driving around town, from an economy point of view, you would always leave it in rear-wheel drive mode, which is good for us, because on the dyno we can put the car on the dyno in rear-wheel drive. We don't have to put it in 4-wheel drive, which saves a little bit of time and money. And of course, because we're driving around town in effectively 2-wheel drive, it reduces the drivetrain losses and improves the fuel economy a little bit as well. The seating position is quite adjustable. This car comes with an electric seat, which we can adjust up and down and forward and back. The steering and the seating position, from my point of view, I'm a fairly tall person, there's a lot of room. You can also see there's a fair bit of headroom. And the ride quality, I think, is quite good for a medium size 4-wheel drive that this car is targeting. You've got to remember the Pajero range of cars, which is a little bit bigger, a little bit more seriously off-road orientated, is obviously different to what target market this vehicle is aimed at. But just from a mum and dad's point of view with occasional use off-road, this car certainly would meet my needs. It fits in a range where it's a bit bigger and a bit more realistic to its market than, say, the smaller version model segment, which is Forester turbo diesel, Forester turbo petrol model, Honda CR-V and things like that. I've driven this car now for a couple of days as part of our R&D and testing, and I've actually quite found it a very comfortable, easy car to drive. It's got keyless entry from the outside, so it's easy to get in and out of. It's got electric brakes from a handbrake point of view. From a dash point of view, I like it. It's got tacho on the left, speedo on the right, and depending on the mode you're in, I'll just pull over here for a second. I'll just show you how the modes change when we're sitting still. So if I put that into 4 high, you can see on the dash it's flashing and it's putting into 4 high. And then if I want to change it again, I can go into the next mode again. And of course, the final mode I've got to push it down on, which is 1 step further again. So these are all things that can be done. Whoops, someone just needs to get out of there. I'll just move forward a little bit. And then of course I can go back. It's just asking me to put it back into 2-wheel drive, high range, rear wheel drive mode. And I'll just show you this. Obviously we're in park at the moment. If I put it into drive, I can then change on the steering column here with the paddles. If I want to, I can start off in second gear. So if you're in snow or a really slippery situation, you can start off in second. But also I can change the gear stick. If you look down here, I can shift it up and down with that as well, or alternatively use the paddles. So we'll put it back in normal mode, finish it off, and we'll head down here because, you know, turbo diesels are not a high revving engine. The Tacho Redline on this particular model is 4,000 RPM, and I've got some notes here from my dyno testing. Peak torque on this particular car is at 2,400 RPM, which is the meaty part of the performance mode of the engine, which is very relevant, which you can see on our dyno graph, which I'll show you in a more accurate way. But if you're driving the car, you'll actually feel that quite a noticeable improvement in torque. And as we commented on earlier, this car has got our MRT performance pack, which is the XA power kit upgrade, and it's got the increase due to the custom tuning of the factory ECU. So there are no other mechanical modifications to this car. It's got a standard airbox, it's got a standard exhaust. This is the type of performance that we could come to expect with no other mechanical mods. And of course it comes with the MRT factory warranty guarantee, meaning for the life of the new car factory warranty for Mitsubishi, we will guarantee that it won't affect your warranty as if it was a factory standard car, because we're guaranteeing our modifications to keep Mitsubishi happy, whether it's drivetrain, gearbox or engine or anything else. So I'm just going to move over here and stop because we're in some fairly heavy peak hour traffic, and let's just talk about the performance of this car before we give it a bit of a squirt down Homebush Bay Drive. So let's summarise what we spoke about in our earlier dyno summary. Peak torque on this particular car, factory standard, climbs like a mountain, then falls off a cliff. As you can see in this graph, I'll show you a more accurate one, but climbs here, then just falls off. The increase in torque that we've delivered goes from 400 Newton meters here up to 430, and then holds it for a lot longer. The increase in power, again, similar shaped graph to the torque, which is because they both are related to each other, but the increase in power is constant along the range. So if we look at the graph up here, we're now delivering 130 kilowatts measured at the hubs in 2-wheel drive mode. Factory standard down around here, we're around about 120. But the torque is what you will feel, because this part here is where we're driving the car all the time. So we're going up here is 430, but the gap here at around 2,700 RPM, it goes from 360 Newton meters up to 420. And this is what you will feel. So there's no traffic at the moment. I've got to be careful, because actually if I stand up hard like this and just put my foot down, in some situations it'll actually bring on the traction control of the back of the car, because we're in 2-wheel drive mode. And the transmission will always try to hold the car in the peak torque performance mode to deliver the maximum potential of what the engine can deliver. And that's one of the positive sides of having an auto trans car. And with the way the automatic transmission communicates with the factory engine ECU, they actually talk to each other. So when you get our upgrade with the performance of the engine, you'll actually think that we've changed the shift patterns and modified the transmission ECU to change differently, when in actual fact it's the transmission ECU responding to the way the engine delivers the power. There is a signal back to the transmission ECU. The transmission goes, oh, I now know I've got more torque to deal with. Guess what? I don't have to change gears as often. I'm not going to be constantly kicking down the gears. So when you drive in this car, you'll find it'll actually hold gears in the transmission for longer. It won't kick down as much, and it'll actually feel, from a transmission point of view, a lot nicer car to drive. So what's this car like to drive from a handling point of view? So remember, we haven't made any changes to the way the suspension is set up. We haven't changed the brakes. The brakes, from a standard point of view, actually, they've got a lot of good power assistance, but they've got a good lot of physical feedback to me as a driver. And if I accelerate briskly around this roundabout and then back onto the highway, we do get a fair bit of leaning, but the car still gives me a fair bit of comfort. And I'll just get my cameraman to hold on as I go around here. So yes, the car will tip in and lean. You'd expect that from any four-wheel drive, but as I turn it in harder, as with any big four-wheel drive car these days, it tends to understeer a little bit, and that is by design of what the manufacturers deliver. So here we are back down on the highway now, where I've got my foot lightly on the throttle. The transmission is holding at around 2000 to 2000 RPM if I'm accelerating here, but if I back off on a cruise point of view, the transmission will sort of hover around the 1000 to 1500 RPM. So there you have it, Mitsubishi Pajero Sport with the MRT XA power kit. I like it. From a big four-wheel drive point of view, I mean, it's no BRZ, it's not a WRX, but again, it's got a different target market. If I was a person looking for a family car to carry my family around in and wanted to maybe occasionally go down the beach or a little bit off-roading, it's not a hard-nosed four-wheel drive, but it's a good combination of features and benefits. So if you want some more technical info and photos, I'll put a link at the bottom of this video channel that you can have a look at. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. Of course, if you're interested in getting this upgrade, you can contact us through the MRT Tuned website and find one of our recommended partners anywhere, hopefully where you are. But for today, I'm going to continue driving this car as we do some more testing, and we'll give you some more video updates soon, because we're going to do some more testing on the air intake, the airbox, modifications with the snorkel and exhaust system. But for now, I'm Brett Middleton. Thanks for watching.